Book 1, Law of Salimi, Chapter 46, titled Respondent003. At around August 2010, I had a great opportunity to meet with another great scholar who would be referred as Respondent003 to protect the true identity of this individual within this book. Apparently, Respondent003 was researching the same subject matter as my own thesis from a different perspective when compared to mine. Respondent003 was a professor from the United States of America who wished to discover the effect of power for practitioners in Islamic banking system in Malaysia. Essentially, both of us would require to conduct interviews with the scholars and expertise of Islamic banking system IBS in Malaysia. As a result, Respondent001 suggested that I should assist her or Respondent003 to interview experts of Islamic banking system in Malaysia. My role would be to set up as much interviews as possible, as well as act as a translator when required, considering some expert might choose to use Malay language, which I needed to translate them into English language. By the way, Respondent003 was a female professor who studied about social science in Malaysia while studying at one of the most famous universities in the world. She was probably around the same age with Respondent001, even though I had never asked her directly. In addition, she was married with a daughter. Nevertheless, her background story, which led her to be fascinated to research about social science in Malaysia, was an amazing adventure resembling the same path of a scholar that I had been walking in my life. Everything that she strived in her lifetime was exactly what I was and still am pursuing in my life. The path of a scholar, the pursuit of learning and knowledge. In fact, I could sense a great similarity between her life story as compared to mine, where both of us hated the race towards materialism and hedonism that had infected the majority masses of society. Both of us were looking for truth behind Islamic banking system in Malaysia, which allowed us to conduct the same interviews together. All in all, I had about more than 30 experts and scholars which were done alongside Respondent003 as well as on my own. The rest of the experts and scholars were unable to participate with our research due to numerous reasons which might not be appropriate to be disclosed here in this book. However, we managed to develop a vast learning and understanding regarding the perception of these practitioners of Islamic banking system in Malaysia. There were issues highlighted to cause arguable or different perceptions amongst the scholars in regards to the practice of Islamic banking system in Malaysia. In general, one group claimed that the present Islamic banks practiced in accordance to the Sharia and Islamic teachings, which were known as the Sharia compliance. On the other side of the spectrum, the other group claimed that the present Islamic banks in Malaysia were not remaining true to the spirits of Islam, which I would refer as the true essence and spirit of Islam, or TESI. The concept of TESI focused on the issue while being Sharia compliant, some activities might not be in line with the true essence and spirit of Islam or TESI, or in accordance to the Maqasid Sharia. In other words, even though a product might be following the rules and regulations of Islam, it might not carry the essence or ideal of the concept that was intended by Islam. One of the best examples would be the concept of marriage in Islam. Marriage is intended to protect the dignity and lineage, where husband and wife would establish a strong foundation of family based on the teachings of Islam in order to ensure their children would be a good Muslim. If the marriage concept was altered, for example, to be agreed for a short duration of time, such as 3 months, these might not be in line with the ideals of the marriage concept as encouraged by the teachings of Islam, because it might be abused for other intentions, such as simply to have sexual intercourse with as much women as possible while following the rules and regulation of marriage in accordance to the teachings of Islam. In effect, it could be said that such marriage with specified duration, or also known as contract marriage, would be Sharia compliance but that do not adhere to the Maqasid Sharia or the true essence and spirit of Islam thesis. As a result, most scholars in Islam were in agreement that contract marriage would be prohibited in Islam. Hence, to the group that disagree with the practice of Islamic banking system in Malaysia, they offered the same concept to support the argument that by defying the Maqasid Sharia or thesis, products that were approved as Sharia compliant would still be considered to be prohibited. The logical reasoning that we, which referred to Respondent001, Respondent001, and I, were discovering throughout the research was the fact that such products were free from abuse and exploitation, which replicated the effect of riba. Throughout the research was the fact that such products were not free from abuse and exploitation, which caused them to replicate the effect of riba within the Sharia compliant product. Let me stop right here in this book, because I honestly do not wish to bring too much controversy regarding this sensitive issue that was the subject matter of my PhD thesis. I do not wish to confuse any of the reader with too complicated concepts. Suffice to say that everything that I had explained in this chapter alone would be considered as the introduction of my PhD thesis, which was the extension from the research studied by Respondent001. Moreover, the findings and conclusions reached in my thesis was similar to the results in the research performed by Respondent003. During the research duration, Respondent003 and I attended numerous talks, seminars, and conventions relating to Islamic banking systems in Malaysia. Based on my observation, she behaved as a Muslim scholar even though she was not a Muslim. In fact, I had told her numerous times that she was more Muslim compared to many Muslims that I had met in my life. In between meetings or while waiting for interviews, we shared our own life experiences with each other, especially relating to observation towards social science, psychological and culture of different societies, current trends of the mass public towards materialism and hedonism, as well as our own life experiences. She told me that my life story was unique and it could be used to inspire others. Apart of that, she also mentioned that she had never met anyone like me ever before from her numerous previous visits to Malaysia. I was extremely elated to have again experienced being perceived by another human being on my abilities and talents residing inside of me. At that moment, I have met another human being who can truly see who I really was, regardless of my physical appearance or how I wear my clothes, which was never following any trends of fashion. I no longer felt lonely while being surrounded by thousands of people, because at least Respondent003 saw who I was. For you, the reader, who might be too imaginative or curious about our relationship, I would consider her to be my soulmates. Notwithstanding, it is the soulmates who walk the same path to pursue knowledge and path of a scholar. Both of us strive to discover the truth and knowledge in the field of study related to Islamic banking system in Malaysia. I had only my best wishes for her to succeed in her pursuit in life. I was extremely happy to have met someone who would be compatible as my soulmate, in the sense that we were walking the same path toward learning, knowledge, teaching, and pursuit for ultimate truth. Respondent003 told me how she wished to have more future research in Malaysia with me. I enjoyed being around her since she was extremely open-minded and had never rejected any ideas about giving a serious thought about it. Knowing I was extremely lacking experience as a researcher, she was very understanding and shared her vast knowledge regarding research and performing interviews with the experts and scholars of Islamic banking system in Malaysia. She said that she had enjoyed her experience during the visit in Malaysia with my assistance and would love to meet me again in her next visit to Malaysia. In my observation of her temperament about life, knowledge, and the concept of learning, she possessed a very open-minded and welcomed discussions about any issues from me. This attitude was one element which made her to be perceived as behaving like a true Muslim, whereas when compared to other Muslim scholars that we interviewed, most of them seemed to lack these excellent feats in their life. Several Muslim scholars interviewed during this research lacked the openness to new ideas and unwillingness to discuss issues pertaining to the subject matter, which indicated rather a huge flaw in their behavior as a Muslim scholars who should be practicing the teachings of Islam. However, there were a small group of scholars who were representing the teachings of Islam in their attitudes and behavior, which was very rarely found in Malaysia. When analysed, the small group of scholars who seemed to be practicing the teachings of Islam had indicated the same issues that we had highlighted in my PhD thesis. As a result, when the interviewed scholars were categorized into different groups, it seemed to have suggested that a small group who practiced the teachings of Islam and supported the concept of true essence and spirits of Islam, TESI, would be supporting our finding that there was a huge flaw in the present Islamic banking system, IBS, in Malaysia. The huge majority of scholars who seemed to be close-minded and refused any new discussions seem to be supporting the present IBS, Islamic banking system in Malaysia, which was in line with the Bank Negara Malaysia. Sadly, since I was not able to have my findings of my thesis to be published in any of the academic journals, I would not be able to present any valid evidence based on my own PhD research. Nonetheless, I had gathered numerous journals and articles which were available online, which mostly were freely available for download to anyone who wished to discover this evidence which supported my research findings. As a matter of fact, Respondent001 and Respondent003, who were famous professors and scholars, had arrived at the same conclusions as my research. All in all, my research had been inclined towards suggesting that the present Islamic banking system, IBS, in Malaysia were offering products that were Sharia compliant, which was in its form, yet they were not following the Maqasid Sharia or the true essence and spirit of Islam, TESI, that was in its substance. Now that I had included my findings from my unpublished PhD thesis, it would be up to you, the reader, if you ever wish to procure the supporting evidences. Regardless of the decisions made by the reader, I had fulfilled my duty, which was to share my knowledge to the masses public. I intended to write a book to publish my PhD thesis into a research-oriented and scientific-based book in the future, which was separated from this book. It will include every evidences gathered in that book, which I hope to act as a catalyst for me to share the knowledge gathered throughout my 7 years journey on the path of a scholar during my studies at the university performing my PhD program. Don't worry, because I would truly wish that if I was able to repay all of my 120,000 debt, I would do my best to share the book for free for everyone all over the world. Just look at the speed of my hands that was causing the picture to capture the blur images of my hand. Anyway, I not explain about my relationship with money in the earlier chapters? I haven't. Well, let us explore that topic in the next chapter. For that, we end this chapter, and thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you again in the next one. See you soon.